all mellowed using the Lincoln County process. Scattered remnants of cut stone still remain. The old distillery's been gone for decades. But the legacy of Uncle Nearest is alive and kicking.
You're invited to celebrate Black History Month with TNCRadio.live. We're shining a long
You are now listening to RMS Radio,
a show that's different.
Well, good afternoon. Let's see here. Yeah, this is Louis George Walker coming to you from the home of the Super Bowl champions, Kansas City, Missouri. And this is the BFTAA and More show, brought to you by the Black Family Technology Awareness Association in partnership with the WEB Du Bois Learning Center. And we came together and we formed a radio station called Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, better known as KUAW for short. And we're wanting to let you know that you're tuning in to the BFTAA and More show. So sit back and relax and enjoy what's going to be coming down for the next 45 minutes as we're celebrating here today. Yes, yesterday, Kansas City Chiefs won Super Bowl 57. It was an exciting Super Bowl, and our hats go off to also the Philadelphia Eagles for putting up a gallant fight. It was a very intense, a very good Super Bowl. Some say it's one of the best Super Bowls in years, so if not the best. So this was a great Super Bowl, and we had a great time here watching. I got to get my green screen together so that y'all can see the guy behind the curtain here and what's going on back there and stuff. Let's see. There we go. All right, so we've got a little bit of green behind us now, and that makes it show up a little better. We're going to adjust the coloring in there, but right now this is looking pretty good. So glad that you're here. We're going to go into some things, and one of the things that we always bring to you here at the BFTAA and More show is what's going on at NASA. So as you're sitting back, we're about STEM. That's what the Black Family Technology Awareness Association does, is we're about bringing STEM education and STEM information to people within the city. Let's see if we've got things stopped here. Today has been kind of a busy day. We've been running around quite a bit, and it was just up last night in the celebrations and having a great time watching the game. I was over to my brother's house, and we had a little small group there, but it was very enthusiastic as the game went on. I tell you, this was fantastic. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But want to let you know that the Black Family Technology Awareness Association has our Lee Hawk Drone Academy going right now, and our kids are learning the process of flying a drone and the operations of drone flying, and we're actually going to have them fly some drones here before too long. So our drone class is going on. It's kind of late to enroll for this class, but we'll be giving you pictures and updates of the kids as they're learning, as they're taking off, as they're going to be flying drones here shortly. They're learning that skill right now. So stay tuned for more updates from the inaugural class of the Lee Hawk Drone Academy, sponsored and hosted by the Black Family Technology Awareness Association at the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. So yes, we're about STEM, and we're going to show you a little bit of what we do every week. And one of the shows that we bring to you is what's going on in NASA. So right now we want you to see what's happening this week at NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So let's cut to them right now and see what's happening.
Celebrating diversity in space and technology, some recognition for a unique mission, and a small find that's a pretty big deal. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. On February 10th, NASA collaborated with the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture for a Black History Month event highlighting contributions by African Americans to space and technology. The event was aimed at inspiring students to pursue science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM fields of study. NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART team, has been selected to receive the Space Foundation's 2023 Space Achievement Award. Last year, the DART spacecraft successfully collided with and changed the course of an asteroid during the first-ever planetary defense test mission. An international team of European astronomers has used NASA's James Webb Space Telescope to detect a very small asteroid. The asteroid, about 300 to 650 feet long, is likely the smallest object observed to date by Webb and may be an example of an object less than 0.6 miles long within the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. On February 8th, engineers at our Stennis Space Center conducted the first hot fire test of the year with the newly redesigned RS-25 engine. 4 of the engines will help power our Space Launch System rocket on future Artemis missions to the Moon. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/twan.
All right. So that's what's going on this week at NASA, and I hope that you guys will stay in touch with that. If you haven't been there, the NASA site online, if you go to www.nasa.gov, you can find a whole lot of good information, good videos, experiments, things you can do with your children. If you have a young person in your family that's involved in science or likes science and technology, the STEM fields, that's what we're involved in here. Go to that page and let them see, go with them. Pick out some experiments, pick out some projects that they may want to work on, and that'll be great. Also, you can take your child out. They have another program, What's Up, at NASA, and you can see the stars at night. They give you stars that you can look for in particular, or constellations and things for every month of the year, that if you want to take your child out or if you want to go out at night. Some of these things you can see. You don't even need binoculars or a telescope. You can just see with your naked eye, and some of them you would need binoculars or a telescope. But that is what we need to start getting involved in, is getting our young people, getting ourselves involved in science and experimentation, finding out about new things and things that are out there in the atmosphere, in the world, in the universe that we should know about. So be sure and check out what's going on at NASA. NASA.gov. It's very educational and entertaining. So check it out. That's where you saw the movie Hidden Figures, and where those great research and development facilities are located, and they've got locations all over. They're not just in Houston or in Florida. They're in Texas. They have laboratories. They're in the Virginia area, in Alabama. The space program and the research programs of NASA, their flight programs and stuff, are all over the United States, and they hire a lot of people. There are a lot of good jobs and careers for engineers, for scientists and technicians. So you need to get involved in that and check it out. It'll be good for you, it's good for the family, and it's good for our community to get involved in science, get involved in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. The STEM fields, the STEM sciences are definitely something that we need to do more of. As President Biden is bringing chip making and some of the manufacturing back to the United States, as they're saying now, because we don't want it to be dependent upon other countries. We need to have that research and development. We need to have the fabrication of a lot of these components done right here in the United States. And those are skilled jobs. Those are skilled positions. And you may even want to be an entrepreneur and start working in that field. Start a company that would supply parts, that would create things that would be used in the rockets and going to the moon and all of that. So, hey, don't let this get past us. It's something that you can do that could really be beneficial to mankind and to you. So that's my spiel for that. Now we're going to see a little bit more about what's going on in space and space exploration with a program called Space to Ground. So you'll see some of the things going on in the not just up in the NASA field, but what's going on the space station, in that space laboratory that is orbiting Earth, how they've expanded, how it is being broadened. And those are things that are going to be part of our future, is having manned space locations and stuff throughout the universe, not just in Earth, but even over the moon. We're talking about putting people on the moon for long term. This is where the science is being tested out. How do you grow food in space? How do you control fires or practice for emergencies in space? Well, that's a living laboratory that's going on right now. So let's check out this week in Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Chelsea Bayarte. Last week, 2 astronauts completed a spacewalk by going outside of the International Space Station. And of course, when an astronaut goes outside, they can't just open the door. So they use what's known as an airlock. And when an experiment needs to go out, the space station actually has a mini version called a payload airlock. So come on, let's go take a tour. This is the Japanese experiment module, better known as the GEM. First, let's check out the pressurized module. It's a room inside the International Space Station about the size of a tour bus, and it's a place for astronauts to conduct scientific experiments. Here in the lab, you'll find racks full of experiments all along the walls for crew members to work on throughout the day. At the end of the room is the GEM airlock. Through this chamber, astronauts can move experiments from the inside to the outside of the space station, and then astronauts can use a robotic arm to mount these experiments onto a platform out into the vacuum of space without actually having to go outside themselves. This platform has been home to a number of experiments from different scientific fields over the years. Some experiments have collected data on cosmic rays, while others have looked at air pollution in the Earth's atmosphere. These experiments can be exposed to the space environment for years at a time and easily be swapped out using the Japanese experiment module's airlock. Sometimes researchers don't want their experiment to sit outside of the space station. In some cases, they prefer their small satellites flying free around the Earth. A satellite could hitch a ride into orbit on a rocket launching from Earth, or an astronaut can install a CubeSat deployer to be sent out through the GEM airlock and picked up by GEM's robotic arm. The arm can then point away from the space station and deploy the small satellites into a safe orbit around the Earth. Researchers have more control because they can choose the best time to deploy their satellite without having to wait for a rocket launch. The astronaut can also look them over and make sure they're not damaged before their release. Most of the small satellites and the other experiments inside the GEM came to the space station aboard a cargo spacecraft. These freighters routinely deliver supplies to the space station. And just this week, the Progress 83 cargo ship launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, carrying thousands of pounds of supplies. That's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks for watching. You can keep up with the science and more by following @ISS Research on Twitter. See you next week.
All right, that's Space to Ground from NASA. Always getting some good information. So that's GEM, the Japanese or Japan experiment module. Very good information there that they can launch satellites from there that have hit strides in cargo bays and doesn't have to wait on a separate rocket launch. So it's pretty neat that they're able to do that. Well, that's all good, well and dandy, but if you live in Kansas City, and that's where this broadcast is broadcasting from, even though we are Kansas City's global community radio station, we're right now home of the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're right here in Kansas City, Missouri, and we got to talk about that game that happened yesterday. You may or may not have seen it. You may be into sports or not, but it was a great football game. The Kansas City Chiefs played the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Chiefs were victorious. So they were able to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. It was the first time in history that there were two black quarterbacks, as it is said, in the game. And that was a historic moment right there. And both quarterbacks played exceptionally well. There was not a blowout. It was not a one-sided game. This was a tough game. Matter of fact, when they went into halftime, the Chiefs were trailing. I guess one of the first things we say is if we look at the first quarter and some of the big plays in there was Jalen Hurts, who rushed up the middle, got the 1-yard touchdown when they first got the ball. The first drive down, they went down and scored. It was 7-0, and the Eagles were in the lead. The Eagles were to remain in the lead or tied with the Chiefs throughout the whole first half. They never did fall behind. Later in the first quarter, on their first possession, the Kansas City Chiefs drove the ball down, and Patrick Mahomes passed to Travis Kelce for an 18-yard touchdown, and it was a tied game, 7-7. So that was a great start to it. It went from there. In the second quarter, the Eagles scored 3 times, and they ended up with 24-14. They had a field goal and 2 touchdowns, which put them up 24. Kansas City scored once. So they were leading by 10 points in the halfway part of the game. And in the last part of the second quarter, Patrick Mahomes, who got hurt in the championship games playing with the Bengals, when one of the players fell on his ankle, he had a high ankle sprain. He didn't break a bone, but he sprained his ankle in the Bengals game. He was able to come back and finish that game, and they won. But then he had to he hurt his ankle before then. But anyway, he played with a bad ankle. He had 2 weeks to kind of nurse it. Yeah, it was in the playoffs that he first hurt his ankle. Then after the championship game, which he won, he had 2 more weeks to kind of rest up that ankle. So he played with that ankle in 2 of the playoff games bad. And in the Super Bowl, that bad ankle was aggravated in a play where he was caught from behind as he was running to throw a pass, and he hurt the ankle again. And, man, I tell you, he limped off the field in pain, and we thought, oh, this is going to be better. I thought. I don't know a lot of other people, but it was looking rough. And then in the third quarter, after the halftime show with Rihanna, and for those that don't know yet and stuff, she is pregnant. She did perform pregnant with her baby bump showing, so that now the world knows that she is pregnant again. And that was a great halftime show. But we got into the third quarter, didn't know if Patrick Mahomes was going to come out. It's a good thing that the halftimes in the Super Bowl are a little longer. They have almost 30 minutes instead of the 13 or 15 minutes that they have in the regular season. So they retaped his ankle. They got him ready. He came back out, and it was Patrick Mahomes at his best. He gutted it up. He said he wanted to leave it all on the field. So his team, they went to work. Isaiah Pacheco, our first-year running back that has been fantastic for the Chiefs, scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. We were up to 21-24, so we were behind by 3 points. But then they kicked a field goal. The Philadelphia Eagles got downfield, kicked a field goal. They extended their lead by 6 points, 27-21 for the KC Chiefs. And then we went into the fourth quarter. And in the fourth quarter, Patrick Mahomes put on a show that was fantastic. They scored a touchdown to Kadarius Toney, 5-yard touchdown throw, 28-27. They took the first lead of the game in the fourth quarter with 12 minutes left to go in the game. The Chiefs were ahead by 1 point. Then in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs scored again to Sky Moore. They did the same play on the opposite side of the field. They had the player wide open on both Kadarius Toney's and Sky Moore's. They really did some adjustments, and the Chiefs went up to 35-27 over the Eagles. Then, with 5 minutes left to go, Jason Hurts rushed up the middle for another touchdown. And the game was tied at 35-35, and there was 5 minutes left to go in the game. The Chiefs, using the clock, marched the ball downfield. Patrick Mahomes did a 26-yard run that was good, set them up in good field goal position. Then there was a pass interference call or a holding call that was called, gave them the first down and more time to run off the clock. And the Chiefs called in Harrison Butker to kick. He kicked a field goal, a 27-yard field goal with 11 seconds left on the clock. And we were ahead 38-35. So the Philadelphia Eagles got the ball back, but they had absolutely no time to do anything. They tried one run play and then a Hail Mary that didn't go anywhere, and the game was over. The Chiefs won. The final score was 38-35. Kansas City Chiefs are 2-time Super Bowl winners now. They've been to the Super Bowl 3 times in 4 years, and they've won 2 of them. They lost 1, won 2, so they got that jinx off their back. Mahomes had been saying that it was bad, that he had a bad taste. He'd been to the Super Bowl, but he knows that winning the Super Bowl is a lot better than losing the Super Bowl. So now he's got the feeling for another win of the Super Bowl, and that was a great thing. So Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Kadarius Toney, Isaiah Pacheco, Sky Moore, all the Chiefs, even the defense scored a touchdown. There was Mike Bolton. I think it's Mike. I don't know what his first name is, but Bolton picked up a fumble from their quarterback, from the Eagles quarterback, and ran it back for a touchdown. So that really helped the Chiefs out there too. So everything that we had was working. Our defense held them, and our offensive line was fantastic. Patrick Mahomes was not sacked once in the game, was not sacked one time in the game. So the defense that had been getting more sacks than any other team throughout this year, which was Philadelphia's, didn't get a sack on Patrick Mahomes. Now, they had pressure on him, and he had to move and scoot, but they didn't get a sack, and that was a big kudos for our offensive line. So some of the stats on it was that Patrick Mahomes finished the game with 21 completions out of 27 attempts, and in the second half, he only missed one pass. All the rest of his pass, I think he had 13 completions and one attempt that wasn't a completion. But Patrick was dead on in the second half. He came back with a mission. He threw for 182 yards, which is well below his average. I mean, he usually throw games when we win by 300 yards or something like that, but he only had 182 yards. But it goes to show that we did do some rushing, and that was good. So it wasn't all pass. It wasn't all on Patrick to throw the ball. We had on, but he threw for 3 touchdowns. He didn't get intercepted. His quarterback rating was great, 131.8. Jalen Hurts on the Philadelphia Eagles, he threw for 304 yards, almost double what, close to double, at least definitely a time and a half over what Patrick Mahomes did. He threw for 1 touchdown, no interceptions, so that was great, for him. 27 completions out of 38 attempts, and he did good for himself. He scored 3 touchdowns, so there was a lot that he did in there. Isaiah Pacheco, rushing-wise, he got 1 touchdown, or the only rushing touchdown for the Chiefs. He rushed 15 times for 76 yards. Patrick Mahomes rushed for 44 yards, so he did some running. Jerick McKinnon, 34 yards. His average was 8.5 a carry. Sky Moore rushed for 4 yards. So those were some running yardage that we had, close to, 70, 150, 160 yards in rushing. So we had a total yardage of right around 300 yards going. The rushing for the Eagles was 70 yards for Jalen Hurts, the quarterback. And then after that, it was 21 for Kenneth Gainwell and Miles Sanders, 16, Boston Scott, 8. So the Chiefs' running game was cooking. Their quarterback rushed for 4.7 yards as an average. Ours for 7.3, our running back 5.1. None of the rushing averages for the Eagles was over 4.7, which was the quarterback. He did the most rushing to where we had a more even or more balanced rushing attack, although our quarterback did run he was the second leading rusher, but we got 34 yards out of McKinnon, 4 out of Sky Moore, and 76 from Isaiah Pacheco. So those were good. Our receiving was thrown. A lot of people caught balls. We went to a lot, and they threw to a lot. They had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different receivers, and Kansas City had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different receivers. So they were about even with spreading the ball around. Travis Kelce led Kansas City with 81 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster was number 2 with 53 yards. Justin Watson with 18, and Jerick McKinnon with 15. Noah Gray got a 6-yard catch. Kadarius Toney, 5 yards. Sky Moore, 4 yards. So those were the catches. But another big play in there was the punt return on the kicking side. On the returns, Kadarius Toney did. He got two kicks and ran it back 77 yards, but one was a 65-yard run back, which set up one of our touchdowns, which really made the second half just fired up. Everything was happening. They forced the Eagles to punt. Tony got it and almost got a touchdown. He ran all the way to about the 5-yard line. So I'm telling you, it was a fantastic game, and we were just glad that it was going on. Now, I'll be right back just a second. All right. Yeah, we've got another show coming on. I had to take a second for that. Let me give you guys a little break. I'm going to show you what's up at NASA right now, and I will be right back here in just a minute. Let's take a quick break. All right, all right. Yeah, a little bit of refresher information on what's going on in the night sky. Just a second. So it's always great to check out the night sky and things that you can see, and that always don't require you to have any heavy-duty equipment or go to a planetarium or where there's a telescope or something, but just look up. So be sure and do that. Hey, and that's our bit of sports for today, which I usually don't do any sports, but with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, we had to bring it up. 38-35, Kansas City is the world champion in football once again. So so you have to look at my Chiefs gear, which I brought out from the last Super Bowl. I haven't bought any of the new gear yet, but we'll probably get to the store and pick up something for that represents 57. I've got Super Bowl 54 gear on today, but we'll see about getting something with 57 on it. But yeah, great game, great game. We'll be hoping the guys can get well, get some time off, rest a little bit, and see what we can do. Oh, another thing about the football game, though, too, I really want to say that they need to have the NFL check the turf in Arizona. I don't know if it's the way they're growing it or if it was something special that was done for the Super Bowl, but it seemed to be a lot of slipping of the players out there. A lot of, some of them even changed their cleats and put on longer cleats. And for a indoor stadium, I mean, it's got a retractable roof, but where I guess you could have ideal growing environment that didn't seem to do well, or I don't know, something seemed to be off, and I saw a lot of players slipping more than you see in regular games. So it might be something for the NFL to look at. And I wasn't the only one. I did notice on a couple of the sports shows and even other talk shows today, they were talking about the footing, because that's how people can get hurt. Even our kicker, Harrison Buckner, in our game when we played against the Arizona Cardinals, is when he got hurt this year. He had a sprained ankle, and it's been a long time for him to get back into the form that he had before that injury. We hope that he'll be taking some time to really rehabilitate his ankle and all of that. But I think Arizona, to me, and to a few others that saw it, it seemed to be little something going on with their turf. So I know George Toma, who was Kansas City's groundkeeper, was out there and looked at it and did some work with it. I don't know, but that's something that I would like to hear a little bit more about, if the NFL is going to do something, if they thought it was a problem or not, or what's going on with the turf that they were playing on. Now, the other thing that has come up over the years is the name of the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's something that I know when you're winning and everything's going good, nobody wants to hear of anybody protesting. But there were some protests, and the Native Americans in Kansas City is probably one of the last teams that has a football team that, has Indian mascot type stuff. I mean, we've got a drum, we've got the chop, and they wear feathers, and we even have an arrowhead for a symbol. And we might want to look into that. I know we were saying, or not we, but the Chiefs organization says, well, it was named after the mayor of Kansas City, who they used to call Chief, H. Robardo. And that may or may not be, a thing. We'll have to see about that. But we're not wearing H. Robardo or mayor-type gear. So all our gear has Indian references to it, the arrowhead. So if the chief was named, the team was named after the chief, which is what they called H. Robardo, may or may not be a thing, but the look of the team, it represents Indians. And it's something that I know it's not a popular stance here in Kansas City, but I think that out of respect, we need to look into that, and that if nothing else, we can change our mascots, change our emblems, change what we're doing. I mean, the arrowhead can be changed into something else. The team can go more, the war drum that they hit before the game and stuff. That wasn't from the chief or mayor. I don't think he hit no big drum down at City Hall and stuff. So those are some things that are, to Native Americans, may be considered sacred or cultural appropriation. And that's something that we really can do without. So Kansas City, and I am not lifelong, I think I've been here since I was 2 years old, but I've been in Kansas City a long time. And I like the Chiefs. I think it's a great team and everything. But we may or we should look at changing some of our representation. If not a name change, we definitely should be changing the representation away from the Indian symbols. Other teams, baseball, football, basketball, all of them have changed, dropped names. Kansas City is like bucking the tide. But I think it's time that we talk about it. I think it's time that we really look at it and see what we can do that this does not offend the Native Americans. And they were protesting out in Arizona. They've had protests here in Kansas City before almost every game. So it's not like the Indians don't know about it or don't care. That's been something that has been going on. So it says one of the things it has in the article I was reading is there's no respectable way to mascot us or to belittle us and use us for profit. And that was from Amanda Blackhorse, the founder of Arizona to Rally Against Native Mascots. So that's something that we need to look at, and something that can be eliminated. I mean, the Washington became the Commanders. There's been name changes and names dropped so that it is more respective or respectful to those Native Americans, and it's something that I think Kansas City we should look at changing. So let's think about that. Let's see about changing the mascot. But yeah, another thing that we want to do is we're always about STEM. One of the articles that I did find too is that we need to get more of our young people into STEM fields, into technology fields. They've got to start taking those classes in science. It says even though teens from low-income families represent 52% of high school students, they make up just 36% of those taking foundational computer science courses. And that's according to the 2022 report by KUAW. So we need to expand the access for young people from low-income families to get into STEM. That's a thing that is important. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the weeks coming up because that's what Black Family Technology Awareness Association was founded on, getting high-speed internet access into our families so that we can close or eliminate that digital divide that exists between our families and the broader community. So let's think about that. Let's see what we can do, but we've got to get those numbers up. We need to have more broadband in the home. We need to have more computer literate, not just youth, but parents that are computer literate, because kids learn more from seeing what you're doing as opposed to just doing it itself. So all of us may need to take some classes, learn a little bit about it, have a computer in the house. Don't be scared of it. Anyway, we'll come back on that next week. I want to thank you for joining us. Be sure and stay tuned at 7 p.m., one of the newest shows that we have in the lineup at KUAW Radio will be on, and that is Smart Money. Smart Money and Business Review, Business News and Review will be on at 7 p.m. this evening. We've got some new people that are learning to operate the boards. You may see some new faces and hear some new voices, and it's just helping KUAW grow to become better and to have a bigger reach throughout the world. So thank you for joining. That's all we have. I would say go Chiefs, but it's all over. The Chiefs have done it, so I want to say hats off to the Kansas City Chiefs, world champions again. All right, that's all for today. We'll see you next week, 5 to 5:45 on the BFTAA and More Show, and I am your host, Louis George Walker. Be easy.